When people around the world imagine America, they almost always picture the exact same things, right? You've got New York skyscrapers piercing the clouds, Los Angeles highways absolutely jammed with endless traffic under a heavy smog, or maybe the blinding, overwhelming neon lights of Vegas. But here's the thing. Those places, they represent just one very loud, very visible side of the story. Welcome to this explainer. Over the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to look right past those typical tourist traps and famous skylines. We're taking our time, stepping off the interstate, and uncovering the places that time completely forgot. We're diving into the hidden geography of a country you only think you know.
Beyond the famous cities is another America. I absolutely love this quote because it perfectly sets up what we're doing today. In this explainer, we are peeling back the layers to reveal a side of the country made up of tiny towns, forgotten streets, and historic buildings that operate on a totally different wavelength. We're unplugging from the fast Wi-Fi, the constant notifications, and the endless digital billboards and stepping into these incredibly quiet communities where life just slows down. Some of these spots look exactly like they did 100 years ago, and they survive simply because the people living there, or honestly the landscape itself, absolutely refuse to let them disappear.
Think about the stark contrast between these two worlds for a second. On one hand, you have our modern digital centers, the concrete and steel jungles defined by cutting-edge tech and constant, breathless motion. But on the flip side, you've got wooden storefronts, empty streets, and this profound, heavy silence. Stepping into these forgotten communities is literally like walking into a vintage photograph that somehow came to life. It's an experience defined entirely by what you might call arrested decay. The dust has settled, the doors are locked tight, but the physical remnants are perfectly intact. So today, let's explore what actually happens when an entire community just stops, leaving only the quiet echoes of a world that used to be.
Okay, let's jump into Section 1, Boom, Bust, and Ghost Towns.
Way back in the 19th century, massive industries like gold and silver mining created these sprawling settlements seemingly overnight. Thousands of hopeful people flooded in, chasing a dream, building huge hotels and saloons right on the untamed frontier. But what happens when the very ground you're digging into just runs dry? Take Virginia City, Nevada. During the Great Silver Boom, this place absolutely exploded with wealth. I mean, Mark Twain even got his start working for the local newspaper there. Today, it perfectly preserves that Old West vibe with historic wooden buildings instead of modern strip malls. You can literally feel the 1800s all around you. Now, contrast that with St. Elmo, Colorado. Deep up in the mountains, this was a thriving gold community. But when the mining collapsed and the railroad shut down, the population simply vanished. Today, over 40 original wooden structures sit there, completely isolated and empty. It's a beautifully tragic reminder of a once ordinary town completely reclaimed by the quiet mountain air.
0. Let that massive number hang there for a second. That is the current population of Bodie, California, way up in the remote Sierra Nevada mountains. Bodie used to be this bustling, rowdy, chaotic mining community. At its peak, nearly 10,000 people lived there. They had over 65 saloons and had a seriously notorious Wild West reputation. But then, the gold dried up, the industry tanked, and the people just packed their bags and left. But here's the crazy part. Instead of being torn down, bulldozed, or modernized, Bodie was preserved in a state of true arrested decay. No modern shopping centers, no paved parking lots here, just original wooden structures sitting quietly out in this enormous mountain landscape. If you peer through the dusty windows today, you can literally still see store shelves fully stocked with 19th century goods, left exactly as they were the day the town died.
Now, the story of Centralia, Pennsylvania, well, it's probably one of the strangest and most tragic in all of America. It started out as a totally normal working-class mining town. Generations of families, deeply rooted communities, the whole shebang. But in 1962, a devastating fire started in the labyrinth of coal mines directly beneath the town, and it grew completely out of control, spreading hundreds of feet underground. Over the next few decades, things got so incredibly bad, with sinkholes opening up and toxic gases literally seeping into people's basements, that residents were ultimately forced to abandon their homes. Nearly all the buildings had to be demolished. Today, Centralia is this eerie, almost totally empty landscape. Paved roads leading to absolutely nowhere, swallowed up by creeping forests. The earth actually still smokes on cold days, and get this, that underground fire is expected to burn for another 250 years. It's a chilling reminder that an uncontrollable environmental disaster can literally erase a town right off the map.
Moving right along to Section 2, Portals to the Old World.
So America has always been shaped by immigration, right? People brought their languages, their traditions, and their architecture with them across the ocean. But what's really amazing is how this incredibly diverse history created these surreal little cultural enclaves hiding right in plain sight. Let's look at a few. Take Holland, Michigan. Founded by Dutch immigrants in the 1840s, they preserved their roots so well that every spring, millions of vibrant tulips just transform the town, set against authentic Dutch architecture and functioning windmills. Then you've got Leavenworth, Washington. Back in the 1960s, this was a dying logging town facing total economic collapse. Out of pure desperation, the community completely reinvented itself, adopting the stunning Bavarian theme just to survive. And it worked. Now it stands as a European-style alpine village right in the Pacific Northwest. Finally, Solvan, California. Founded in 1911 by Danish educators who basically just craved a winter escape, they imported classic Danish windmills, half-timbered houses, and incredible bakeries, right into the sunny Palm Tree Rhinesanianas Valley. One minute you're driving through classic California wine country, and the next you feel like you just crossed the Atlantic Ocean.
Which brings us to Section 3, Life in the Slow Lane.
In a country where success is basically always measured by how big and how fast you can grow, some communities deliberately reject that frantic, sprawling pace of modern American expansion. Take Harmony, California. It's this tiny little dairy community nestled near the coast, and it's fascinating specifically because of how proudly small it remains. Its population? Exactly 18 people. Back in its heyday as a central dairy hub, it was a bustling stop. But when the highway eventually bypassed the town entirely, Harmony didn't panic. They didn't scramble to build massive subdivisions to attract commuters. They just stayed exactly as they were. Harmony really challenges that deep-seated expectation we have that every town has to constantly grow bigger, build more, and expand endlessly. Sometimes, staying extremely small is the whole point.
So that sets up a pretty fascinating philosophical question. What actually happens when a town rejects the future? What does it look like and what does it sound like when an entire community collectively decides that the high-speed, engine-roaring, screen-filled reality of the 21st century just isn't for them?
Well, you can find the answer on Mackinac Island, Michigan. Sitting beautifully between Michigan's upper and lower peninsulas, this island made a radically bold choice way back in 1898. They banned motor vehicles. Yep, completely banned them. And they never looked back. Today, it completely lacks the constant, aggressive traffic, the smog, and the blaring horns of major cities. Everyday life here simply isn't organized around the automobile. Instead, the air is filled with the clip-clop of horse hooves, the ringing of bicycle bells, and, I'm not kidding, the sweet smell of world-famous fudge drifting out of historic waterfront storefronts. It is a peaceful, engine-free detox for the soul. It offers a significantly slower pace of life, letting visitors actually experience a totally different, remarkably quiet version of America.
And finally, Section 4, the America between the cities. As we zoom out, we really have to talk about the connective tissue of the entire country, the vast, sometimes unglamorous, but absolutely vital spaces that string the United States together. Imagine pulling off a long highway as the sun's setting, crunching your tires into the gravel parking lot of a generations-old diner where the exact same family has been pouring coffee for 60 years. It's the historic family-owned farms. It's those surviving retro gas stations standing stubbornly right off the interstate. It's local county fairs that smell like funnel cake, and quiet main streets where neighbors still actually recognize each other when they walk down the block. Look, this isn't the glamorous, hyper-edited America you see in international blockbuster movies. But it is the grounded reality for millions. Millions upon millions of Americans live their entire lives far away from those famous skylines, rooted deeply in these vital in-between spaces.
Because there isn't just one America. There are thousands. The United States is vastly bigger, far quieter, and infinitely more diverse than its famous coastal cities might suggest. The real stories? They're hiding in a forgotten mining town preserved in dust, a tiny dairy community of just 18 people, a strange cultural pocket imported directly from Europe, or a quiet dirt road where the past somehow stubbornly survived. So the next time you're looking at a map of the United States, try looking past those giant glowing dots. Ask yourself, what forgotten histories, strange cultures, and silent streets are waiting for you just off the very next exit? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.